Hello and welcome to the Swan Song Project Podcast. My name is Ben Buddy Slack and I'm the founder of the Swan Song Project. We're a charity that helps people face the end of their lives to write and record their own original songs. If you'd like to find out more about the charity, hear some of the songs, or get in touch if you know anybody who might be interested in working with us, we're now offering our service virtually. You can check out our website, which is swansongproject.co.uk. The Swan Song Project Podcast features songwriters, and we talk about one of their songs. They tell us a bit about how they wrote it. They share with us a songwriting tip, and then they also share with us a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. This episode features Hewerdine, and I hope you enjoy it. Hello and welcome to the Swan Song Project Podcast. Today I'm here with Mr. Hewerdine. Thanks for joining me, Boo.
Hi, hello, nice to be here, very nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to talking to you. For anyone who's seen these podcasts before, listened to them before, we do them in three parts. We have the first section, we're going to have one of my guest songs. We're going to talk a little bit about how they wrote that. Section 2, Boo's going to share with us a songwriting tip. And then section 3, we're going to talk about a song that's meaningful to Boo in some way related to bereavement. So I'll ask you to introduce the song of yours you've chosen for us, please, Boo.
Well, it's a song I wrote the words to, actually. It's a song called I Felt a Soul Move Through Me, and we're going to hear Eddie Reader doing it. And it came, both Eddie and I, she lost her father and I lost my mother in the same week when we were out on the road. And she said, I want to sing something, very hard task really. She said, but I want to sing something to remember them by. And the music, the melody was a friend of ours called Graham Henderson had this melody that he'd sent to us. So I took his melody and added some words to it, which is not something I normally do, but it was probably one of the most, it was a very moving experience writing it because I was trying to sort of paint a picture of loss. And she sings, Eddie is, as I don't know if people know, but she's such a wonderful singer and she sings it so beautifully. And it's probably, I was talking to her, it's probably this, we love all the songs that she does, but it's got a very special place for us because it's not only has it come from our experience when we play it at concerts, people come up and they get it. So yeah,
it's a beautiful song. So we'll hear it now, shall we?
Yeah.
Felt his soul move through me. I was safe and sound. Branches on the window couldn't hurt me now. And when the night came with a childhood fear, his soul moved through me. They disappeared. I felt his soul move through me as I stepped from the tree, here to make a new life, to start again. The spring it brought me, winter kept me here. His soul moves through me, time disappeared. I felt his soul move through me, somewhere in the sky. Too late I landed to say goodbye. He gave me laughter and I paid with tears.
Okay, brilliant. So that was I Felt a Soul Move Through Me by Boo Hewerdine and Eddie Reader. So yeah, you were saying you wrote it. So I mean, that must have been a hard week for you. You say you're on the road as well. So both lost a parent.
It was a really strange week because we were doing a tour playing in bookshops.
Oh wow!
It was very strange. So I was heading to Aberdeen to play with her, and when I landed from the plane, there was some messages from my sister, and I knew something was wrong, and so I flew straight back, and my mum was in the hospital, and my mother had 2 brain hemorrhages before, once when she was young and once in her 40s, and we always knew that might happen again, and that's what happened. So I stayed at home for a couple of days, and then Eddie said, "Why don't you come out?" And I was just sort of, I don't know. I just thought I really wanted to be with my musical friends, and then I flew up. Got the train up to Liverpool, and then the same thing happened with her dad that night. So we didn't ever get to sing in any. I think we'd sung in one bookshop at the beginning, but then that was it. We just decided to leave it. So it was an incredibly intense emotional experience. And the idea of the song is in 3 parts. And the first verse I talk about when you're young and a parent is such presence in your life, they make you feel safe. The second verse is about how when you first move home and you start your own life, they're still there. There's still this presence. And the last verse was kind of relaying the experience of flying back down. You know, I felt you never stop feeling them, and she's still. I think about her every day. So it's a very simple song in terms of structure. It's just 3 verses. Sometimes the hardest songs to write. There's no choruses, but it's a lovely, lovely melody that Graham wrote. So I just remember sitting with it for 3 or 4 days until every line seemed to sing. You know.
Was it a melody that he'd given you beforehand, and then
Sorry?
Was it a melody that he'd given you beforehand, and then you and Eddie?
It arrived at the same time, coincidentally. He said, "I've got this melody." As we were working on a record, actually. But it's always with songwriting. I think you're looking for a way in or a key to start off, and I don't even know where the phrase came from, but one time I just wrote down, "I felt a soul move through me," and it's like, wow, that's what it's like. And once you've got the key, and I got the key, and I knew what I wanted to say in each part of the song. I knew what I wanted the script to say. I just didn't have the script, and that's really, I know it's mixing into the songwriting tip, but it's really helpful when I write with people, especially if I don't have a lot of time. I was just writing with someone just before I spoke to you. It's a really lovely idea, but we quite early in the process, we mapped it out. So I was saying, I think we need 2 verses, and then I think we need some sort of bridge. It's very different musically, and then come back for 1 more verse. So, and that's even before much music or lyric exists, but it's really helpful to have your architecture. And that was really important with the Felt the Soul Move Through Me, because I was listening over and over to Graham's tape, and he just played the same tune 3 times. So he gave me the structure, but I'm really glad he did, because I think it works so well being that simple a structure. And I think sometimes people get a bit wrapped up in choruses and middle eighths and so forth. And then because I was trying to say something very fundamental, I didn't want there to be any fancy bits, you know.
Yeah, and then was it? Yeah. I was just thinking, was it quite, knowing you had that amount of melody for the verses and having like such a big and deep subject that you were dealing with, like I guess it makes you be very concise with what you were aiming for. And what was that like? And did you have a lot of things that you were trying to express in it? And
there's something about not having a lot of space to say a lot, which is really brilliant. Like haiku, like, I suppose, in a way. But there's so we seem to be sort of heading into the tip part of the podcast. But one of the things that is always in my mind when I'm writing is Paul Simon quote, which he said, "The art of songwriting is making the complicated sound simple." And I think that's brilliant, because it's a really complicated subject, the idea of losing somebody and but also you want it to be, it's not a confessional song. You want someone to hear it and there to be a sense of empathy in it. So there were some quite complex ideas, but I was trying to say them as simply as possible.
Yeah.
So it lets people in. And that really, that idea of knowing your song even before it's written in terms of shape, and also really trying to say what you want to say in the most elegant, simple way that you can. I always find those songs, if I pull it off, are the ones that move people when I play live, or people want to record, you know. Whereas when I do something dead fancy, that might be lovely for me to listen to, but not so much everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, the simple ones are the hardest ones sometimes.
They are. Yeah. Steve Earle produced my band's second record, and Steve's one of my heroes. He's fantastic. And and the band I was in, we were very, very, we thought musical. Lots of, I know, you know, all the chords you can think of, all the sort of modes, all that stuff. And I remember him sitting down with me one day and saying, he played me his wonderful song. He was just in the green room at the studio, and he played a song which I already loved and knew, My Old Friend the Blues. And I went, God, that's such a brilliant song. I don't know if you know that song. It's a brilliant song. Oh, you should check it out. It's a brilliant, brilliant song. And he said, yeah, when I can write a good song with three chords, that's a good day. And that always sticks with me as well, because it's a check it. It really is a brilliant, beautiful song, and it's got the sentiment is really, it's a fantastic. It's about that feeling when you wallow in misery, but you kind of quite like it, which we all know that. But it's brilliant. So that I hadn't heard someone else write a song about that subject before, and it's just three chords, but you wouldn't when you listen to it. It does everything a song should do. So that's always in my mind as well. Like always that. I think the concepts can be as complex as you like, but the execution and the thing should always try and be elegant rather than showing off. You know.
Yeah. It was something I remember like first getting into song, like first learning songs, thinking that every song I really liked was going to be complicated, and then going to this journey of everything, and you learn a song, you're like, oh, it's just these three chords, and it's not actually that complicated at all. No, it's just really powerful. And it's
really good writing. It's really good writing. And so when you do come in, if you're writing and you do come up with an unusual change or a thing, it's there for a reason rather than. Quite often when people first come to me and I'm producing them, or they come to workshops and they play something and they say, and I say, but I think you could lose that part there, and they say, but that's really good. It does this thing. And I go, well, that's not the song, you know, that's you doing that. So it's having the courage to chop bits out as well. And just for the song to be like the base material that you make your arrangement with. I've written with some huge songwriters, very lucky over the years, and a lot of them will write in a very simple way, just on a guitar or a piano. And when it sounds amazing like that, that's when you start thinking about arrangements and horns and backing vocals and all that. But quite often people get into that sort of idea quite early on, and that's not the same as writing, really. Sometimes the arrangement can be the song, but if you think about really great songs that you like, you would recognize them however they were arranged. Like My Way by Frank Sinatra was also done by Sid Vicious. It's the same song, you know. So
yeah, that the song should be standard. Should work as a standalone.
Well, it kind of just it just kind of does, or whatever arrangement. I've been very lucky that people have recorded my songs, and I've got some songs have been recorded like a load of times. The arrangements are completely different. You know, one person do it as a ballad, another person do it as a rocker or whatever. But whatever you do to it, it's always the same song. And that's a good thing to have in your mind when you're writing, is the song is not the arrangement.
Yeah. It's interesting. What was it like when you finished that song? Like the first time you and Eddie like played it, like when you first, I guess, did you write the lyrics and then you brought them to her and working it together?
We were actually making a record. She'd been signed to a big record label and she'd lost her label, and we wanted to keep going, so we were making a record in the drummer's front room on his 8-track. It was a 7-track because one of the tracks didn't work. So the first time she sang it through was in his front room, and I just remember we were like, it's one of my favorite vocal performances she's done, we were all just completely floored by how she sang it. And then there was a guy who used to be in her band, Fairground Attraction, Simon, came and played his guitar on, which is like a Mexican bass on it. And I just remember it being the easiest recording session as well. And that's often a sign of a good song. If it goes really simply and all ideas seem to work, that normally means the song's good. But if you're struggling and, oh, what about this bit? What about that bit? That's normally in the writing, you know? So I just remember it being very easy and very emotional. And we had to be careful because he's in his front room. Quite a lot of takes were, I don't know if on that track, but the album's called Simple Soul, but you can hear the doorbell quite a few times on that album.
Nice little real touches. Yeah, brilliant. Let's move into section 2 now, shall we? This is where I ask my guests to share us a songwriting tip. So you mentioned that we kind of touched on some of it in that first part. So, okay, yeah. What's the tip you've got for us, Boo?
Well, I was going to say the Paul Simon, the art of songwriters making the complicated sound simple, and I could expand on that, but overwrite lyrics would be my tip. With that in mind, is once you've got your shape and once you know what you want to say, overwrite, because quite often people write 3 verses and then they'll say, I finished. With any other form of writing, you'll have edits, like if you write a book or something. Like I've got friends who are authors and they might be on the 6th or 7th rewrite of a book. Just go, and for some reason people seem to accept the first lyric that falls out of them. So overwriting is a really good way of doing it. Once you've got the sense of meter of the lyric that you're trying to write, just write more and more and more and more. So I've got a song called Harvest Gypsies, which was recorded by Chris Drever, and it's got 9 verses. It sounds a lot, but they're very short. But I found my workbook for that, and I found I'd written about 30 verses. And then then the second time when I'd gone through and cherry picked all the good lines, and then I'd squashed them in, till I felt that every line was as good as it could be. And overwriting lyrics is a good way of doing it, because too often I feel people just go finished, and that's not true of any other writing discipline, you know. And it's really good, because once you get into that motion of writing verses or over more and more and more, your subconscious seems to take over and give you some brilliant sort of things that. Whereas if you're sitting there thinking, oh, what rhymes with fish, you know, it shouldn't be like double geography. It should just be like and that flow will only happen if you really know what your song's about. So I really knew what that song, Harvest Gypsies, was about migrant workers in California in the 40s. I knew exactly what it was about, and I knew what the story that I wanted to tell. So I had all that in there. I knew the meter, I knew the melody, so I just sat there and wrote. And that may sound a lot. There's a fella I used to write with called Nick Kelly, who's in a band called Fat Lady Sings in Dublin. And when we used to write together, I'd say, can you write some lyric ideas for it? And then a package would arrive in the post, and it would be that thick. It'd be like a novel. But yes, I think that's a good way, rather than get stuck. If you get stuck, write something else. If you get stuck in a verse, write another verse. But getting stuck is a pain. It's a total pain. So just keep going.
Do you find does it take much discipline? Or because if you got that down now that you're kind of used to doing that, do you ever feel that temptation when you have written just a few verses to be like, oh, that's it?
Oh, sometimes it's it, definitely. But I try not to get stuck. And some of the songs I've written in lockdown, I don't know people that you'll speak to, but this is slightly different. But knowing what your song is about is so important. One of the people I've been working with during lockdown is a woman who lives in Bristol called Lady Nade. Fantastic. And we write every week. But all of the writing sessions start with conversations. They start with conversations, and she makes notes of everything. And she'll say, today I want to write. We have got a song about grief. It's not recorded yet. And so we go through all that. We talk about all the different things. She's making notes all the time. And then I might come up with some lyrics she comes up with. And when we look at our work page, it's covered in stuff. And then we meet again and we hone it down. So it happens naturally, especially if you're working with someone else. There's nothing that the other person says is not, everything is valid. It's all valid. Even if at the time you think, well, that's a bit strange, write it down. And then you have to kind of like, when you're writing by yourself, do that with yourself. I see so many times people going, I could say the sun was out today. Then they'll say, oh, that's a bit cheesy, isn't it? I'm not even sure I know what the word cheesy means. I like cheese. So it's, just write it down and move on. Like, it could be a placeholder line. Just be open. I suppose that's my tip. So sometimes I will write something really quick, but here's the thing: you don't really write them quickly, because there's they talk about Brian Wilson writing "God Only Knows" in 7 minutes, one of the greatest songs ever. He didn't really write it in 7 minutes. It was all back there percolating. All the work he'd done on other songs was in there, so it came out. It just wasn't. It came out without any impediments in the way. So you know, and that's what I think. I think if you're a writer, stuff's always going on in your subconscious. So anything you can do to make sure it keeps flowing is good.
Yeah, it's really good advice. I think all that overwriting as well, like you say, like Brian Wilson there, that all feeds into your other songs, doesn't it? So if you've written loads of verses, it's not wasted time at all, is it? It's all practicing your craft.
Exactly. And the thing about getting good at your craft is when the idea comes, when the big idea comes, like Richard Thompson, I got him to speak at a workshop once. He said, just write all the time, because so keep the shop open, that's what he calls it. But when I feel it's like being match fit, so that when the big idea comes, because you can't teach people how to have ideas, but we all have ideas. But where songs come unstuck is when people, oh, I don't really know what I should do here, or should this be, what's this chord, or that. The more you learn your craft, the quicker it goes from there to there. That's why I teach these workshops, or run them rather than teach, because I love to see people who getting frustrated at first, and then even after a week, it's just flowing out of them, you know.
Yeah, that's really good. I really like the being match fit way of describing it. It just made me think of there's that quote of luck is when preparation meets opportunity. But that's kind of what it's like in a way, isn't it? Like, you're prepared to know how to write songs, then it might be a lucky thing that happens that then triggers an idea. But then if you're not prepared to write that song, you don't have the tools, then it's not gonna work, is it?
If you don't know if you don't know how to change key, if you don't know all the things that once you've learned, you don't even think about while you're doing it. It slows it up, doesn't it? And that's the ethos of my songwriting workshops, is that I know everyone has ideas. And I've had some wonderful stories of people who've come to me who've never written a song in their life, and quite older people, maybe some people. One person who came on my course was an old person, and it was totally on their bucket list to write a song, and they did, and it was wonderful. But there's also people in their 50s or whatever who've never written songs. And when I do the workshops, I also help people afterwards, and they've gone on to have careers. You know, it's like brilliant. And they'd spent a long time being frustrated just because they didn't know a few simple things that might help. Yeah. So it's a really rewarding thing to do, you know.
Definitely, yeah. Do you do? Are you doing regular workshops now, or?
I have done. I can't see, a lot of them are residential, so I haven't been able to do them. But I've done a couple of online ones for Creative Scotland, and we're hoping to do a lot more with my friend Finley Napier, who lives over there, and also there's my friend Darden Smith, who's in Texas, who's one of my oldest friends, and we're going to try and do a transatlantic one, and they work really, really well. But I do love the residential ones. There's a place that I used in Inverness, which is kind of like my favourite place on earth, and I've done about 15 there, like 2 or 3 a year, one way or another. Sometimes with paying customers, sometimes with younger people or people with problems or whatever. And I would always try and do as many weeks or weekends as I could there. So all of that's gone for now, but they're surviving. I thought they were going to go under at one point, but it looks like they're surviving. So we'll be back, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully it won't be too long. Yeah, I'll try and get along one time.
They're so much fun. That's the thing as well, because it's fun, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's really great is you've got a room full of people, and you're there for the song. So it's not to do the execution of the song. So people start listening in a different way. And some of the best songs have come from people who aren't great singers or aren't great guitarists. But you develop a different type of listening, and so it's really good. And then people seem to take that away with them when they listen to records at home and go, oh, I never realized this was such a good song. Or, yeah, I used to like this, but nothing's really going on, is it? It's because they're just listening to, and it's great. Someone you can barely play. Whoa, what a song, you know. So that's exciting. I love that. So I don't ever have an audition process. I won't do that. Everyone else does. That makes people send in tapes, because some of the most exciting and joyful experiences have been with people who wouldn't get in onto a course normally, you know. But they come on the course because they've got ideas. They're not coming for any other reason. So I respect that, you know.
Yeah, that sounds like a great way to do it. I was just wondering, you talking about how fun songwriting is. I think you're right, and that's something that a lot of people think, you know, don't see the fun in it, I guess, who people haven't done it that much, or maybe you've had a few experiences that have been harder work. But in your own work, you mentioned earlier about trying to not get stuck. Do you have times where you have to make yourself just feel like working on it, or do you have ways of keeping it always fun and exciting for yourself?
I'm always working on it because I love doing it. But I did, like, for my last record, I realised that I love my guitar. I've got a fantastic custom, what they call the signature model there. I love it. It's like I love my guitar. But I thought for the last record that I would do a record without any guitars, and I wrote all the songs on a thing called a dulcitone, which is a 100-year-old instrument that was used in churches, and it plays tuning forks. Beautiful sounding thing, like a Celeste or something. And I did that on purpose to make it hard. And I really love that set of songs, and they wouldn't have happened if I'd done them on the guitar. So I do try and challenge myself, yeah. And some of the people I work with, I work a lot with, but I have so many. I'm very lucky. I work a lot with Chris Difford from Squeeze, and he doesn't write music, so he just sends me his lyrics, which are always great. So I get to write that way, where you've just got a lyric in front of you and you start. So I just try and make it different and interesting every time.
That's great that you've got such a varied approach, because you mentioned earlier that you just doing the lyrics to another melody and then just doing music to other people's lyrics. It must be certain that sometimes a lot of people get.
I think for people that you're talking to here, the great thing about, especially even before lockdown, but with the internet, is I have quite a few songwriting partners who there's one in New Mexico, someone in Nashville, there's someone in Vietnam, and the one who I do the most of the writing who's outside UK is a guy in Slovakia. So it's brilliant, and it's like you can make a choice. You can either write together, or one of you can do the words, one can do the music. But I think it's a fantastic way of, especially was for me, we've been very locked down in Glasgow, but to keep connection. But I just think with the people that you're working with, it's fantastic that you can write with anyone, anywhere. And that sense of, sort of the little universes you create between the person you're writing with, because it's a very intimate thing, writing songs, and it sort of fast tracks friendship. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like he's called Vlad, the guy in Slovakia. It's like the first meeting was, oh, hello, how you doing? All that. He's one of my friends now, like totally. And sometimes we just ring and have chats, and that wouldn't have happened without, because you make yourself very if you're writing like you should, you make yourself very open and stuff, and that's nice for both of you, you know. Yeah. So I think I don't know with your project, I don't know if people are able to do that online or whatever like that, but I think it's a beautiful thing, you know.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love that expression, fast tracking friendship as well. Yeah, that's what I feel very much is what happens with Swan Song as well. I go and meet someone, and they're dealing with whatever they're dealing with, and they're interested in writing something, but then very quickly it feels like they're friends that you've known for a long time, really.
I've written 2 songs called Swan Songs. One's on one of my albums, and it is by far and away the worst song on that record. I thought it was great. So then I wrote another one for my old band, which is called The Bible. We reform every now and then, and I wrote one for the last time we played together a couple of years ago. It's not bad, but it's not been recorded. But I just, something about the word Swan Song it's just so evocative. It's a great name for your project.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So let's move into section 3 now, shall we? This is where I ask my guests to share with us a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. And what I do here is I put the link in the description. So if you're listening to this at home and you're not familiar with the song, you can click the link, go and listen to it and come back, and we're going to have a chat about it. So what song did you choose for us, Boo?
I chose "Hurt" by Johnny Cash, and that's it. Sorry, this is Moxie. It's more or less the last thing. I think it's the last video he made at the end of his amazing life, and it's a Nine Inch Nails song, but somehow in his hands, it turns into the most heartbreakingly beautiful song about the end of life. It really does. It's incredible, but and he's there, and you see his wife in the video. So it's a beautiful, beautiful video and a beautiful song. I lost my father just a couple of months ago, who was in a home, and when I could still go and see him, and we spoke on the Zoom multiple times every day, but when I could go and see him, we would always talk about music, and he would always become more animated. He was fine, but it seemed to really touch him, and I wrote a song myself about that experience of what music does, especially at that time of life. It's a song called "Old Song" about that was a friend of mine used to take Frank Sinatra records into his dad when he's in the home, and he'd be back in the room so much more. And there's something incredibly fundamental about music and us and what it does, how it links in with our memories and our lives. And for some reason, although "Hurt" is not necessarily about bereavement, it says something really very, very beautiful about the end of life, I think. So
yeah, definitely. Is that song you just mentioned, "Old Song," available online somewhere?
Yes. Eddie's recorded "Old Song," but it's on my last record. It was one of the ones that was written on the Dulcitone. It's on that as well.
Oh, brilliant.
It's again, what I really like is if I do a concert, is if like people have come up to me because I felt the soul move through me, so I know that experience. Every time I play "Old Song," people come up and say, that's what's happened with my dad or whatever, and it's been used by a couple of dementia charities and stuff like that. So that, as a songwriter, if you can reach someone in that sort of way, that makes it feel like you're doing all right. It's good. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to listen to that later on. Then that song. That was one of the memories I've told a lot with Swan Song. When it started was when my grandma was really near the end, and she'd been pretty much non-responsive. But me and my uncle sang to her, and it was like you say, like she was just like it actually came back to life when she was.
It's magic. It's magic. It goes so deep. It gets so deep into us. I don't think there's any other reason why does music even exist. You know, why did we create music? There's something very fundamental about it, really fundamental. So, you know, it's like you hear a snatch of melody you haven't heard for 20 years, or you're back there right away. It's incredible.
Yeah,
it's good. Amazing. Music's good.
It's good stuff, it's a pleasure to be involved with. Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Bill. I really appreciate it. It's really nice talking to you.
That was really nice for you to ask me, and I was really, I was really looking forward to talking to you. So that's good.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get to one of your songwriting courses at some point in the future.
That'll be good. Yeah,
we can meet up in person.
That'll be good. I'll send you the brochure with all the uniforms in, just so you're prepared. You know.
Yeah. Sounds good. Have you got anything else coming up that you want to mention on here? Have you got any online streams or anything?
Oh, I've got some records coming out. I have a duo with a really nice American man called Brooks Williams. It's almost like a hobby, except we play until COVID. We do lots and lots of tours together, and we're called State of the Union. And we've got something coming out next week called "Why Does the Nightingale Sing?" as a single from a forthcoming record. That's the next thing I've got coming out, I think. So
brilliant.
Plug that.
Yeah, I'll put all the links in the description for your different.
Thank you.
As many different projects as I can get in it.
Yeah,
people can check them out.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot for your time. Very appreciate it.
No worries. All right. See you later.
See you later now. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Bye. Back with another episode soon.